the third of the 7 job search sins, and we're talking about the sins. It's wrath, and that is, in this case, all about getting frustrated when you get angry when you get rejection. So instead of doing that, and how to deal with that is to figure out how to get the most out of that situation instead, right? Um, so one thing, first of all, especially if you've had interviews, it's quite okay to be upset that you didn't get the job, and don't want to say be mad, but look at like, okay, so this sucks, and then move on from there. Then be like, hey, now what do I do? And there's a couple of things here, a couple of ways to look at this. And one thing is to look at it like, hey, I need to look at this like that wasn't the place for me. I can do something else. I probably wouldn't have fit in the team, or at least that is what the company decided, and that's okay. That's one thing, because it's also a question of they know what they're looking for, right? And I know even if you do get the job, not it doesn't match every time, but it's also a question of be like, okay, so we will assume that they know what they're looking for. We will assume that they know what kind of person and personality they want to hire into their team. So if they didn't want to hire you, then maybe it's because you're not the right fit in their team, so they actually did you a favor. I know it sounds stupid, but it is a framing that might actually help you in terms of letting it go. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the team, it can also be for that specific position. So if there's a company that you're especially um, excited about applying with, and yes, you can apply for the same company multiple times, then don't think of it as you didn't match the team, then think about it as you didn't match that particular role. And then the second thing that you can do is figure out what makes sense in terms of what information can you get out of this rejection. So sometimes when you get a rejection via email, they will explain to you why they hired the person they hired. They won't necessarily tell you specifically why they didn't hire you, but they'll tell you what were the traits and what were the things that they valued about the person they actually did hire. So look at that email and say, okay, so what is it here that makes sense in terms of, is there anything you can change? But another thing is that when you get that feedback, when you get the email or the call, then ask them, what did they focus on with the person they actually hired or the people they actually interviewed? What made them invite those people for the interviews? What made them hire the person they chose to hire? Because that is information you can use. For one, you can use it for that particular company and type of position. If you want to apply there again at a later point, you kind of now have some pointers. So keep this in some kind of document, right, where you have this information. But also you can keep track. So basically, if you're applying for the same type of position again and again, let's say that you're applying for a social media role, and they really, all the places you're applying, what you're getting back, the feedback you're getting is that, hey, we're looking for someone who has a specific certificate about Google Ads. And then you can actually go and say, okay, I'm going to go and get a certificate on Google Ads because that means I will be more valuable for future positions like the one that I have been applying for, the ones I've been applying for but gotten no to. So really going and saying, what is it that you can, what is the feedback you can get? And when you get these rejections and ask for feedback, then it's not about you, it's about them. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people, including myself, what I also did back in the day, would be call and say, hey, I'm really sorry I didn't get the interview. Could you give me some feedback on my material? But if you didn't get even get the interview, they have no idea who you are. They are long past having said no to your material, most likely, so they don't remember you. So instead of doing that, because then it becomes really hard for them to say yes to give you feedback, both because they need to go back and find your material and they need to spend their time as well, right? And that might be like setting up an additional meeting and everything. And yeah, it might be possible, but a better way to do it, in my experience, is to ask them, say, hey, I'm really sorry. I think this position sounded amazing. I would have loved to get the interview, of course, but I'm curious, what did you focus on with the people you did interview? What was the things that made the people you invited for the interview interesting to you guys? Because then when you have this information from um, application to application to application, then you can look at that together and see, okay, so this is what like the general industry um, is looking for. And I think there's one point here that's really important. And again, this is a mistake I made myself back when I graduated, is not thinking long term about your job search. Most people will think, and this, I'm sorry, this goes especially for internationals as well, but most people will think, I'm not going to be unemployed in 3 or 6 months, so I don't need to think long term. But the thing is, it's better to also think long term and then get a job in a shorter amount of time, because the thing that you think about a bit more long term is what's going to give you an edge if you end up being looking for a job for a longer period of time. So one, starting collecting this data that can actually help you if you end up being long term or searching for a job for a longer period of time. And the networking part is the same. Keep networking. And again, it's like, here's so many people be, oh, but I don't need to network because I'm going to get a job. It's like, but networking is not, it's not necessarily about getting a job, because networking is something you want to be doing all the time, right? Also, when you have a job, when you have your own company, when you have these things, you want to be networking, because a lot of people will end up, when they then need the help, when they get to unemployed, when they're looking for their job, then they'll go and try and activate their network, but their network haven't heard from them in the past like 3 years because they didn't need them, and then it's really hard to use your network. So instead, think about, when we're thinking about network as well, think about how can you actually supply value and give something to people, and then from there also ask for their help when you need it for your job search. And I know this is a bit late, like 8.5 minutes in, but if you don't know me, I am Diana Lundnåström, and I help international academic job seekers in Denmark, or, well, I do that, but people looking for jobs at an academic level, or professionals, meaning that if you have a bachelor's degree or above, I can help you with teaching you how job search works in Denmark. So yeah, when you get rejection, look at it like, is there something to learn from this? Because that is how you both move on, but also how you can actually create a strategy that is even better for landing those jobs. This is how you learn. This is also why when you're applying for a job, being more specific in choosing one type of job to apply for a period of maybe 3-4 months before you kind of broaden your horizon or switch to another area. Because the thing is, the better you can focus on a specific area, the more knowledge you gain, and the better your applications and your interviews will become, because you learn more and more about that industry in with time. And if you are applying for, let's say, 3 different areas, then your concentration is going to be split between these 3 areas, and you're never going to really dive super deep into this area and this industry. So okay, if you guys have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat. Okay, what am I talking about? I am talking, well, the theme of the video is how to use rejections when you are looking for jobs. How do you turn rejection from a job into feedback? So how do you actually make the rejection useful, both on an emotional level but also more practically? And so for the emotional level, it's more about thinking that this is also about being okay with not being the match for every company, and maybe and this is a framing that maybe they did you a favor, right? You weren't the right fit. And this is important, because if you end up in a job where you're not the right fit, you might end on sick leave in 3, 6, 12 months because you do not fit into the team at all. So I think this is super amazing, or not amazing, super important was what I wanted it to say. So this was are we at 28? Wow, 28 of 30 days live for me tomorrow. And we're gonna go more than 30 because we're still having, tomorrow is day 4 of 7 of the sins videos or theme. And tomorrow is gonna be about sloth. And that translates in a job search situation into procrastination. So that is what I'm going to talk about in tomorrow's live. So keep up, tune in tomorrow. Maybe around not quite the same time, a bit earlier than today. But you can always watch the replay. And if you guys have any questions from watching the replay, then put it in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer. And then I will see you tomorrow.